Some paths lead you through straight and narrow. Others have bumps and turns. And sometimes the path can lead you to the rest of your life. Welcome to Ending the Stigma, a path to recovery.
Hello, everybody. What's up, guys? How are you? Okay, welcome to Ending the Stigma, a path to recovery, our newest episode. So I'm your host, Fred Carroll. I'm joined by crisis life coach, Scott H. Silverman, and the beautiful Jennifer Field. How's everyone doing tonight?
Really good. How come she gets a great label and all I just gets a name? It's just
because you're so clinical. You know, you got the clinical.
Shut
you get the.
up,
I think it should have been the wonderfully talented, amazing Scott Silverman.
No, I don't think we have to lie to our guests. I just think it's important that we, and you don't have to call me Mister, but you always get those great ones, Jennifer. That's okay. As long as someone remembers my name.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, the phone lines are still closed tonight, and I swear I'm working on it. I'm doing my best. I'm going to mention the dilemma just in case anybody out there is listening that could maybe help and lend a hand. So we do have a Zoom phone number, and that's the phone number we were using earlier on our first 3 shows. Now, the problem with that was we didn't have a problem with the phone number or anything, but Zoom only allows us to go live in one format, which was YouTube. And because we're a new show, we're trying to reach as many people as possible. And StreamYard gives us that opportunity. But then the phone number can't be connected. So I need to find a way to get either my home phone, which I never use anyway, connected through my board here and be able to use it, or my cell phone. I don't even have a problem with it being my cell phone connected or anything. So anybody out there that wants to help. But this is Ending the Stigma. So remember, if you have an issue or a family member, a loved one, friend, neighbor, etc., who needs assistance or a success story of overcoming an issue, feel free to write it in the comments below. And I'm going to hand it over to you guys and let you talk while I do some production work. How's that?
Before you go, though, one of the things we talk about is the 3 hardest words in the English language, I need help. So everyone, you're hearing from Fred tonight. So maybe somebody from StreamYard tech support will make a special call to you, Fred, and walk you through it. And then because as podcasters out there, there's lots of people that are looking to learn how to do it. So anybody at StreamYard, and I know, and you know who you are because you're watching right now because you want to see what we're doing, please get out and some information to Fred, hold his hand so we can start getting callers, because the only way we can help people is if people call in and let us know what it is that we can help with.
Yes, exactly. So you guys go ahead. I'm going to do some production stuff on the other end. So talk amongst yourselves.
Sure, that's what he's saying. He's saying he's going to go do production stuff. He's just wandering away to go eat dinner or something.
I know. He said that he'll be back in about an hour and a half. So we'll just wing it, Jen. So Jen, how was your week this week?
My week was fabulous. It was uneventful, which is always nice. I was actually just finishing up the rest of my book, sending it over to editing, and that's always a hard thing. And I know you've got a couple of books out, and it's never fun getting those edits back as you open the document, and it looks like your 3rd grade teacher just went crazy with a red marker.
Yeah.
You start questioning your own sanity.
No, and I'm in editing now, and I'm not a great reader, so I have to look to my wife Michelle to help me. And I should have my book. Hopefully in about the next week or 2, the opioid epidemic in my hands for final edits. And I'm hoping by the end of March to have it in print and start getting it out there, because it's, a book about the epidemic. And I'm hoping that we'll get a lot of families looking at it, asking questions, and we'll find ways to try to answer those questions here as well. So what number book is this for you? Because I know you have a few out.
This will be number 9. Yeah,
Number
it's the 4th in the series. It's the 3rd in this series, and it's the number 9 book that I've had out. So I've been doing it for about now 5 years. So not too long, but I usually put out about 2 a year.
That's amazing. And how long does it take you once you have a creative idea? Because, they say 90% of the population will want to write a book one day, whether they write, a journal, or they write an article, they write a poem, or they write a story, which is significant. And I remember going to a writer's workshop when my first book came out, Tell Me No, I Dare You. And it was a 3-day with a bunch of professionals, 300 people here in San Diego. And I found out everything I did to put my book together, I did wrong, which was fascinating. And then they have you read a chapter, not a chapter, but a page in a chapter to the group, and you get feedback. And I said, look, whatever you do, just be nice, because next week my book's launching on Amazon and I can't make any changes.
I don't have the time to make the changes on it. So
it's too late.
Right? Exactly.
It's out in the atmosphere and environment. So you get 2 books done a year. That's amazing.
Yeah, I usually get 2 books a year, sometimes 3. If I'm locked down, then I can do 3. So that was last year. I was able to put out 3 books last year. So that was nice.
Right. You do all your own writing and your own editing as well?
I don't do my own editing. I couldn't edit. I pay somebody for editing. No, I have absolutely. I failed out of English more than once in high school. So English is not my forte. So I pay good money to have it well edited.
Yeah, I'll bet we could do a whole evening with that. Talking with people about putting a book together. So, Fred, do we have any guests tonight?
Well, we're trying to see if Mick's going to come in. Hopefully he does, Mick Manhattan, because I want to talk to him about something he's doing that I think is very important, but it's saving dogs' lives, which to me is very important. So, and to Jennifer, I knew Jennifer would absolutely love that. Jennifer is an animal freak.
I am. That's true. I feed every bit of wildlife, any homeless, anything that has 4 or more legs, or if they've got 3 legs and are wobbling up to my house, I'm feeding them and housing them. And yeah, so that's me. That's true.
Yeah, I have 3 dogs. I love dogs. I mean, we can't have cats because my mother-in-law was allergic to cats, which I found out later in the relationship. So when she was giving me a hard time, I really tried to convince my wife to bring a cat home, which would have limited my exposure to my mother-in-law, but that never quite happened. We love our dogs. Big part of our lives. Really important. And Brad, we said it earlier, we were talking before the show, that it's possible that more people will want to talk about animals than talk to us. So
well, it's probably an easier conversation to start talking about an animal than it is to start talking about yourself.
Well, human beings, we are a little bit more complex. We are a little bit more complex.
Yeah.
So, Fred, how was your week?
It was eventful, I guess. It wasn't the greatest week of my life, I'll tell you that. And then, of course, last night I had to do my podcast with Jennifer, and that wasn't very fun.
It was
what was the topic?
Estrogen-filled night. It was ladies' night over at Within the Head of Fred,
which is called Within the Head of Jen, once a month, every last Saturday of every month. I release it as Within the Head of Jen. So she gets to invite her own guests on. She doesn't clear them with me. She just tells me who they are. But they're usually
permission.
Yeah, she's got to ask permission. And I warned her. I told her if the show does better than me as the host, it's not going to happen again. It only happened once.
You'll step away. So what was the topic about, Jen?
Well, we just went straight to sex. So, and we had a friend of mine who designs lingerie and custom made corsets on, Nikki Zorak, and we had a friend of mine who is a sex toy expert from Athena's. She's a veteran goddess there for the past 15 years. So she was talking sex toys. We were embarrassing Fred. He was learning some stuff. His next girlfriend's going to be very happy. He knows all about lingerie and sex toys.
Yeah.
Well, he still has to get it right. I mean, sometimes, picking off the going shopping in the store and getting certain ingredients, you still have to know how to put them together, right, Fred?
Yes. You better know what toy and when. But they were very, the one thing we do on Within the Head of Fred, even though we base it towards, it's very sexual conversations, usually between Jennifer and I. But they're conversations that we talk about things from a comedy standpoint that nobody else is talking about. Or, I mean, people are, but they're like the things nobody wants to ask, the questions, the crazy questions. And we put it into a comedy format. But even the show last night was informative. Now, the subjects may not have been everything you wanted, but hey, while we're here, I'm going to bring Mick in real quick because Mick's got about 5 minutes to spend with us, and he's going to hang out for 5 minutes. So
remember what happened last time you said that, Fred? Somebody's going to hang out for 5 minutes.
He's got a show to record in 19 minutes. So
hey, Mick.
Hey, Mick.
Jennifer. I'm sorry, not Jen. Jennifer.
That's okay. I'll go with anything. It's fine. You can call me anything you want, Mick.
Yeah, Fred does. Fred does. So, but he's almost family.
I gotta be respectful. I want to call somebody what they want to be called.
So, Mick, we were just talking about the thing you're doing next Friday, correct?
Oh yeah, the Save Brady fun.
So why don't you talk about that, and then off the air later, I want to talk to you about something because I don't know if you have any time slots available for that, but Jen and I wouldn't. Jen and I would do an 11 to midnight, but we'll talk off the air.
And Mick, if I can help too, as a crisis coach, we know a lot of animals have issues. Let me know. I'm happy to jump in as well. I'm still at home. I've got about 4 more days of quarantine post vaccination, and then I'm going to Home Depot.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. We're doing one of the hosts on the Scene Snobs. He's one of the hosts of Carpool Shenanigans. He is raising funds right now for, as you can see in the picture, little Brady. We're trying to help him out. Brady was born with an eye issue that it has to be removed or it's infected right now, and the infection can spread. So they're raising funds for the surgery for Brady, and we're jumping on board to help out. The donations are open now. You can go to the Scene Snobs, any of our social media, and I'm also going to put it up on the website. But next week we're doing a week from today, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, an 8-hour online fundraiser. We're calling it a fund-a-thon. Everybody can donate straight to the GoFundMe. We'll have links all night, but we're going to have entertainment. Everybody's going to kind of jump in over the 8 hours, and we're just going to have a good time and talk and hopefully help Brady out the best we can.
That's great. I'm on the West Coast, just so you know, so I can go late.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Do you know Brady? Is this a dog that you know?
I do not know Brady. I do know Mitch, though, the host, and he's a great guy. And he's distraught and really want to help him out the best we can.
Do they have a veterinarian lined up already?
Yeah. I don't know the vet's name. I can get all that info and everything. But as of right now, the story is on the GoFundMe. More technical jargon of what's going on with Brady's eye than I'm smart enough to remember. But we just wanted to do something we could. We've done this 8-hour, fund for charities before. The last one was on Thanksgiving night. We did an 8-hour show from 11 to 7 a.m. And that was for the lonely. We call it Thanksgiving with the Lonely. We do an 8-hour show, so people who are lonely on Thanksgiving can hang out with us. They can jump in the show if they want. Join us in the conversation and the comments, things like that. But just, it's going to be a tough time, so we try to help out best we can.
I love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it is. It's very good, and you do a good job. So I just wanted to make sure to get you on here so you could talk your stuff to our people. And this video will play all week long anyway, so hopefully enough people see it. But, yeah, we'll definitely help you out the best we can.
That would be great. Really appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. We have time slots, and I'll get with you, Fred, and we can set up. And if you guys want to jump on, please, we'd love to have you.
Okay.
All you got to do is ask me, and I'll be there. Not right now, but email me, text me, instant message me, get me through Fred, and I'll do whatever I can to support you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Scott.
Yeah. I like to say that as a professional fundraiser, I can bring time and talent. I will leave treasury to others, but I can help. I was thinking about calling the vet and going, hey, what can you do to discount this procedure so the money's raised can be used for rehab and after work and things of that nature. And, one of the keys to fundraising, a lot of people don't know this. The number one reason people give money to something, Fred, do you know what it is? Let's see how smart Fred is. What's the number one reason people donate money, do you think?
I don't know.
Jen, any ideas?
I don't know. I have no idea what would cause it.
Okay, a couple things. Normally it's like tax purposes, or they makes them feel good. But I'll tell you, the number one reason, this has been done through the National Philanthropic Foundation study, the number one reason people give money, you ready, is because somebody asks them.
Oh, wow.
The easiest solution is usually correct, right?
Yeah.
It's always
Yeah.
I learned that after 4 years of getting more no's. I wrote a book called Tell Me No, I Dare You. And someone says, you know what, obviously, and when you're a third party saying I'm raising money to help this dog, it's even easier than if you're trying to raise it for, I ran a nonprofit for a long time, Mick. So if I can help or have your buddy who's doing this, give me a buzz. Cause we were talking earlier about, I think animals tend to get more love unconditionally than people do, because we're a little more complicated and everyone thinks that other people have agendas, which, we do. I mean, clearly your agenda is to help Brady,
I'm sure my cats have agendas. I'm 100% positive they do.
Oh, they do. Cats are
I appreciate you guys even just letting me on the show to talk about it. This is truly amazing. The warm support that everybody has kind of rallied around just in the past couple of days. It only went up Wednesday. So, past couple of days, just, everybody jumping on board and helping out has been truly amazing.
So
does he already have a time slot for the surgery, or is it pending donations?
I think by March 8th is when they're closing it. I think that's when the doctors, we can do it by this, or, then you run the risk of infection. That's what I was told.
Gotcha.
When talking to them, I think we're, like I said, when it comes to veterinarians, we're not the smartest bulbs. We're just listen. But, I've been in this situation before too, and it's so tough. So I just, I felt for him, and I wanted to help best I could.
How much money are you trying to raise, or do you need?
It's $1,200. Right now we're at $325.
Well, we'll get there. They're going to get there. They'll get there.
That's like a penny for every one of Fred's fans. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Okay, Mick, I know you're stretched for time, so people could go to thescenesnobs.com and they could find the link there.
Yeah, it will be up by tomorrow. I've just been redoing the website and stuff so I can put it up. Okay,
that's fine. But I thank you for joining us, and I'll be there to watch your shows as soon as I'm done doing my live show.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I'll see you later, Mick.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Mick. Okay, so that was Mick Manhattan. He's a great guy. He does a lot of good things. He's running a channel over there, and he's doing his damnedest to get it done. So Scott, you want to talk about, I know you did some introduction using my phone situation as asking for help and stuff like that, but do you have any information on, can you lead the way, at least lead the conversation on that?
Sure. When it comes to getting help, I was telling Mick, you heard me even say the number one reason people give to a cause is because somebody asked them. And the three hardest words, we talk about this a lot, is, I need help. And I've probably taken about 7 crisis calls this week. And it's interesting how everybody I spoke to, I give similar advice. I mean, most of our problems might appear to be unique, but there's some common themes to how to move to the next level to get support or get services or access experts. And it's asking for help. And every one of them, I don't know how to ask for help. I said, look, you made a phone call and you're talking to me. In my opinion, you've just asked for help. So that's out of the way. Let's eliminate that barrier and let's move to the next level and start talking about what's going on and what it is you really think you need and how we can help focus on what you can do to help yourself. When people, used to run a workforce development nonprofit, people would walk in and said, I hear you can give me a job. It's like, what? Yeah, I heard you can, you're going to give me a job, just like that. I said, I can't give you anything except support.
Right.
I'm not going to be there at the interview. I'm not going to be the one that has to answer the questions, but let's talk about it. Because and I just talked to a family member the other day, and this poor mom is working with a young kid who's completely resistant to any suggestions or any advice. And I said, well, have you tried to, engage them with a clinician? Have you talked to somebody in your faith-based community? Have you spoken to, one of your other members of your family that maybe could speak with. Well, he won't do this, he won't do that. And then I got off the phone with her. I was a little frustrated because I wasn't breaking through, and it was her mom who called me back after she checked in to see how the call went, and I explained to her what had taken place, and she said, "Well, that's the problem." I said, "Well, it's tough," and and now I figured out. I found out talking to mom and grandma, the kid's stubbornness comes from his mom. So and that's where someone like a third party can get involved with the conversation and help kind of mediate what's going on. Meaning, if I said the same thing to my child, one of my girls, they'd go, "Well, Dad," but if I had Fred call him and say, "Fred, would you mind going through, a couple of questions with my kids?" Just because he's a stranger, they might be uncomfortable with it, but they'd hear him differently. And that's the part about where, I'm hoping that what we're going to do with this show is move that forward. But I want to share something with you that I heard this week for the first time at one of my meetings. And I thought it was awesome because, when it comes to this disease of addiction, or it comes to the willingness to change, or it comes to self-empowerment, you hear people say, "Well, I've got willpower and I can do this." And most people do have willpower, but with some things, you just can't do it yourself. And he said, I love this. It's a little graphic, but he said, next time you have diarrhea, try using willpower to stop it.
That's some solid advice there, Scott. That's
that's loose advice.
That's very loose advice.
Well, I give it, I'm not as comfortable as you guys yet on the air doing things. And I'm an F-bomb guy, and I've learned that since when I see that little record flashing light in anything I'm doing, I try not to use it, and I use it all the time. But it was fascinating because when you think about that, especially with people who are suffering from some maladaptive behavior, or they're gambling too much, or they're on the internet too much. And then you hear them say, "Well, I can use my willpower, I can stop." And I just love that. So think about it. How would you ever use your willpower to stop diarrhea?
So quick question for you, Scott. So do you find that it's more difficult for men or more difficult for women to reach out and ask for help from anybody?
Well, I think women keep it a secret better, just for a lot of different reasons. So I think I've probably just seen more men in difficult situations. Mm-hmm. But usually when I get a phone call, it's not from the person who has the problem, it's a loved one. Right. And usually it is a female who's calling on behalf of their child or their significant other. It's pretty unusual where a man will call about their significant other, if you will. But I think across all genders today, I think people are, especially with the virus, this COVID, I think people are asking for help in a different way. I also believe, and I don't want to necessarily sound sexist, but I think that, well, let me go back to my days at running a nonprofit, working with people coming out of jail and prison. Women, and they were only 20% of our clients, right. Women got jobs quicker. Women stayed in jobs better. And I think women, in my experience, because generally they're the parent of supervision, they have skill sets that men don't have. And when I interviewed women, and they'd say, "Scott, I've never had a job. I don't know what I'm going to do." I said, "Wait a minute. You shared you've raised 3 children. They're mm-hmm. still in single digits, but you've got supervisory skills. You've got, motivational skills. You've got a engineering skill. Transportation.
The obvious.
Yeah, and those are skills that are transferable, but not a lot of people don't really think about that. So when it comes to somebody who's self-medicating, it's really hard because you've got somebody whose brain isn't working. So right. What I suggest is the person, and I was talking to someone just today who's going into detox. I was real excited, and I've known her for almost a year. And she said, "Well, I'm gonna go to detox and go back to meetings." And I said, "Can I make a suggestion?" She says, "What?" I said, "Try not to use the brain to make decisions on your care when that's the same brain that got you to where you are." And I said, "That's not a judgment call. That's the disease. That's the way the disease works. So don't let your brain have a vote. Go to the people you trust the most. go to your confidants, go to your family that you care about, that you know care about you. And there's got to be somebody. If not, I'll be that person until you reconstruct whatever you want to do in your new relationships. Because when you get stuck in a corner, it is really hard to get out by yourself, so that's what I try to be, is that lifeline. But I can't really tell you, to be honest, Jen. It's a good question, but I've always found, and I grew up in a family business where it was 90% women. So I may have a softer side to that and understanding, and because I ran everything in my life, and my girls and my wife, I've been in a relationship a long time with only women. And I've always felt that, if I can get a seat on their bus, I'm always excited about it. But I think women are they have capacity, their bandwidth, their understanding, their compassion, their truth telling are a little more transparent and straightforward than men. That's just my opinion.
Wow. I don't know if Fred, would you, are women transparent for you?
Not at all.
Fred has a lot of Fred has a lot of problems reading women, so you might want to actually talk to him about that as well.
Well, we've talked about that, and he usually changed the subject, which gives me a clear idea that he's uncomfortable with it. But at some point, the maturation rate of us working together will get Fred to it. And by the way, Fred, when I say transparent, okay, because my wife will look me right in the eye, and I'll say, "What do you think of blah blah blah?" And she'll say, "Oh, it's fine." And then I'll say, "Could you repeat the topic I just shared with you?"
Nope.
Well, I don't want to go over it again. I think it's been asked and answered. I said, come on, tell me. Well, okay, to be honest, I wasn't listening. Okay. So when I say transparent, what I mean is when you ask a direct question, if you look them in the eye and they don't have an agenda, you get a straight answer.
Yeah.
Now, Scott, if somebody's calling into you and they're calling for crisis, and what does that conversation look like? Do they call in? Are they asking for help, or are they just kind of looking for somebody to talk to?
Well, I just did a segment on Fox 2 in Detroit, and these are people that didn't know me, and I got like 30 calls in 2 days. And most of them, the common theme was, I don't know who to call for this. I don't know who to talk to about this. I'm frustrated. I don't have the skill sets, it seems like, to move the needle. But most people are seeking some sort of solution. I mean, I actually even had somebody call and said, I need money. I said, who doesn't? And I said, tell me more. And we talked a little bit more. And, she was out of work. And so I gave her a couple of tips. And I said, there's got to be resources in your community. And then, open their eyes a little bit. But most people generally, what happens is when we get stuck, the common sense wheels don't really spin well. And when we're behind the 8 ball, it's really hard to try to even articulate yourself. You just know that something's not right. Talk to someone today. She says, I'm depressed. I'm still taking the medication. And I was told that they had a specific problem. And I didn't say to them, tell me about that problem, because I don't want to be pulling the covers too early in a conversation. And they never got around to sharing what that problem was. But they said all they really need is a job. And I said, so what is it you're doing right now to prepare for that? How are you applying yourself? What is it you think you need? What are the hurdles? What are the roadblocks? What is it that's keeping you think, from doing that? Because I want to empower them. And if we find out that their thinking process is just completely toxic, my suggestion is, because that's my forte, is you've got to remove the toxicity. And if the toxicity is untreated trauma, if it's truly depression, sleep deprivation, self-medication, whatever the issue is, fear, whatever the issue is, that barrier has got to be arrested, if you will, and managed. And then I think it's much easier to move to the next level of creating change, whatever that might be defined as for the person.
Yeah. So you want me to do my Mel the Science Gal facts of the week that she wrote in to us? You want to hear them? Let's listen to Mel the Science Gal. We're going to get her on one day. She's warming up to it, I think, but we'll see how she does. Here's her. Mel the Science Gal this week has wrote in some facts on how alcohol affects your health. So this is what she said. Alcohol is absorbed through the lining of your stomach into your bloodstream and diffuses into other tissues throughout the body. Alcohol reaches the brain in 5 minutes, with immediate effect appearing within 10 minutes And on average, the liver could metabolize 1 ounce of alcohol every hour. Long-term excessive consumption of ethanol can damage nearly every organ and system in the human body and can lead to the following health issues: liver disease, pancreatitis, cardiovascular disease, malignant neoplasms, stroke, coronary heart disease, cancers of the digestive system, meaning liver, breast, and ovaries, cancers of the respiratory system, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, hormone imbalance, and sexual dysfunction. So the statistics she had as of 2019, these are 25.8% of people age 18 and older, with 29.7% being men and 22.2% women, reported that they engaged in binge drinking. According to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, 14.5 million people aged 12 and older have alcohol use disorder. And that's with almost 7% of men and almost 4% of women. Alcohol contributes to about 18.5% of emergency department visits and 22% of overdose deaths related to opioids. About 95,000 people die from alcohol-related causes annually, and approximately 10.5%, which is 7.5 million, of U.S. children 17 and younger live with a parent who has alcohol use disorder.
Wow. Those numbers are quite staggering.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, she's pretty good with her, obviously I can't prove those facts. I'm sure Scott can attest to some of those facts at least.
Oh, they resonate, and they're SAMHSA and other NIDA and a few of the other national organizations, even the Surgeon General's report. You can go through it; they're pretty accurate. And I think the percentages are probably a little bit low on a national basis because they use a sample study, obviously, and then they extrapolate the data. But I know that and I'll tell you, probably half the phone calls I get, if I were to read that to somebody, here's the answer I would get. In Europe, they say having red wine every day helps you live longer. They'll find one thing that's not there and they'll point to it because they don't ever want to change what they're doing. But there's nothing long-term, that obsessive consumption of alcohol will do anything positive. It just, for the moment, it does what it does. And it's fascinating when you think about it. And the argument from young people is, well, it's legal.
Well, you're right on your, when you're addicted to something, how you'll find the positives to it versus the negatives. I remember going through quitting smoking. So highly addictive, very difficult to quit. I'm 3 years now, but I remember using excuses like, first of all, quitting smoking for 30 days and then celebrating by having a cigarette because I fixed myself. It's stupid. It's dumb because you smoke one, then it's 5, then you're buying a pack and you're back. That's how quick it is. But you also, in the bars, you would say, guess who I ran into last night? I ran into Johnny. I haven't seen him in 20 years. Oh, yeah, where'd you run into him? I went outside to have a cigarette. So now I'm associating. I would have never ran into Johnny, who I was so happy to see, if I didn't smoke cigarettes. So smoking is good. That's how the smoker thinks. And I'm sure it's the same with drug addicts and it's the same with alcoholics. And it's got to be more common than just with smoking.
Oh, it's any behavior that's maladaptive, or has a compulsive, obsessive, addictive underlying behavior tied to it. People will rationalize to from here to the end of the earth to be able to maintain it. And then I love the people that say, I only do this because I'm a better person for my family. It's like, are you kidding me? How does one say that and consciously really support the fact? So at the end of the day, I think if people aren't informed, we were talking earlier about marijuana. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it today, but I get asked a lot, and I'm concerned about the high THC content right now in marijuana is very scary. and we're starting to see a morbidity rate really increase. That means people dying from the use of marijuana, or the trigger that marijuana, because it's so potent, will trigger other things to be consumed. And I'm not inferring it's gateway, although there's a mixed studies around it. But those are the kind of things that when people make these decisions and they're not informed, you heard about the statistic we just heard about alcohol. 200 people die every day in our country, just the USA, behind opioids, whether it's prescription opioids like Oxycontin, or illicit street drugs like fentanyl, heroin, and or other opioids. So when you think about how many people are dying each day, and we talk about the flu, people getting the flu more than, I'm not discounting the coronavirus, but the flu, we talk about it more, and how we need to get people, vaccinations for that kind of thing. But when it comes to people that are overdosing, we're not slowing it down as a country. There's no doubt about it. And as people go about their day with more anxiety and the inability to process their feelings, and look, even somebody who only has a glass of something at dinner, they're not an alcoholic per se. They're not necessarily even abusing alcohol, but there is something that alcohol does to the body and to the mind. It triggers the brain to feel different, sometimes better, sometimes worse. And if you're doing that on a regular basis to a certain degree, you're contributing to your own, condemnation of your own lifelong opportunity to live a healthy life. And when you hear stories about people that, my liver's not working, and, I have trouble sleeping, and my kidneys hurt, and, those kind of things, you wonder. But, and smoking is a great example, Fred. I mean, I was a big smoker. And, the science that came out about lung cancer and all the things that did. And look, all these years, we haven't been able to cure that with all the tens of billions of dollars thrown at that research. And look,
it amazes me that people still smoke in this day and age. It amazes me when you see people and they're smoking. I mean, it's the simplest thing, and so many people do it. But it's one of those things that I'm just kind of amazed, because there's been so much education about it. There's been so much, unlike where we're going now with all the opioids, that there's not a whole lot of education out there yet. That's, I mean, we all know it's bad, but there's not a whole lot of education that is being given.
Yeah, it's a struggle. There's a lot of problems with, as an ex-smoker, I quit because of the cost. If the cost didn't change, I actually quit because of the cost, because I felt
you're just cheap, Fred.
Right. Well, I was 49 years old.
He doesn't want to be healthy. He's just too cheap to buy the cigarettes.
Well, it wasn't a matter of not wanting to be healthy. I had always thought at 49 years old, I had already been smoking since I was 14 years old, all the way through. I only quit for months at a time here and there. I figured, what am I wasting? What am I saving by quitting now? But it's a wrong attitude to have, because I didn't know I could feel as good as I do today after 3 years of not smoking. And that's the problem. It's hard to put your mind into the future and realize your lungs do heal themselves. Not 100%. I still get winded too easily and stuff like that, but I feel better. I appear better. Now, I did gain weight, and that's a big issue. When you quit smoking, you tend to replace it with something, food, lollipops, candies. There's all kinds of situations for it. Even the vaping. And I still vape. When I write and stuff, I vape because it's a habit. That's another habit. Now, I don't use nicotine, which means I'm spending money and getting nothing out of it. I might as well light my money on fire and just throw it out the window. So,
well, why don't you, use a little willpower on that, Fred? We were talking earlier, see what that's like. It's interesting we talk about smoking, because actually, according to a new study that just came out, I think last year, young people are smoking cigarettes less than they ever. But when you look at the marijuana consumption and you look at the vaping that's gone on, and vaping was a tool, in theory, according to the manufacturers, which I think was who owned Philip Morris. I think they're one of the biggest companies making the Juul pipes. The study showed that this was going to be a replacement to cigarette smoking. And now vaping has become a vessel for THC and for marijuana and for heroin and methamphetamine. So that's just a different vessel for people to bring it into their body. So even though cigarette smoking may be down, but so for me, the big question always has been, what is it societally that we're not doing effectively that creates a motivation for people, or just a, kind of an excuse, if you will, to put something in our body, to your point, Jen, that every bit of science, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, nobody says cigarette smoking is healthy for you. Nobody. And you're right. It's still a multi-billion-dollar business. The tobacco industry lobbies like crazy. And I remember when they first put the Surgeon General put the warning on the side of cigarette packs. I was around, I think, as a smoker then, and everyone kind of laughed and said, "Oh, this is just a liability waiver for the tobacco manufacturers." It really isn't true.
Right. You definitely will forget about all the bad things when you're addicted that bad. And were you ever a smoker, Jennifer?
No, not a day in my life. Mm-mm.
So, and that's tough. I mean, Jennifer grew up in the same era as I did, the 80s, and that was all about being cool and
well,
smoking.
here's the thing, Fred. So my grandparents were both alcoholics. So my mother and my uncle have never drank. So from the time I was very little, there was no alcohol in my house. There was no smoking in my house. So for me, it was very natural to not smoke because my mother never did it. And I'm not a big drinker either because my mother never drank.
So did you never try a cigarette?
No, never. I've never tried a cigarette a day in my life.
That's always shocking to me, but there's a lot of people like Jennifer out there that just never tried it. And it goes to show you how addicting it is. Now, I'm not afraid to say my grandfather was the one that taught me how to smoke. He told me at 14 years old that all men smoked. Real men smoked. That's what he told me.
Well, I mean, back in the day, in Grandpa's day, I mean, you had a cigarette that was recommended from your doctor. What doctors smoked this cigarette? That was their go-to brand. Yep. So I mean, it's all societal, where we've changed as a society what we're doing.
Yeah, and it was a stress reducer. When you smoke a cigarette, you feel calmer. So it was created as a tool. But when you think about what Jen just said, in an environment where there is a family that wasn't doing these things, the outcome for individuals to pick up, let's say, bad habits, for lack of a better term, they diminish greatly. And the science that I've heard from some experts is the kids who have the least amount of issues around self-medication or mood-altering substances or going out on a limb to risk peer pressure are kids who actually sat at home through family dinners, only three a week. The studies show that their outcomes, their decision-making process, their level of being informed really is significantly different when families don't get together, because that's the time that families historically, how was your day? You share the story. There's that compassion and the love, and you took time to kind of just be a family and talk about what's going on. And not that times are that different now, but times are that different. We have seen a lot of kids and the peer pressure that comes when you hear about children that are picking things up and the pressure they're getting more from their peers. So Jen, to you, did you have friends? Because your parents didn't encourage it. It wasn't there. But when you were with your buddies, did they encourage you? Did they invite you? Did they say, "Hey, come on, we do it. Why aren't you?"
We've spoken about it at one of our other shows. I mean, my addiction was completely different than using cigarettes, or I used food as my addiction. So there was definitely something there. And those people I hung around with. So, I hung around with other girls who had eating disorders. So it's kind of all, circulatory, where you're looking at it. And I was hanging around with people that had the same issues that I had. And, to Fred's point, you hang around with people that you hang around. If you're a smoker, you hang around with smokers. If you have an eating disorder, you hang around with those people. You find them, you seek them out. We're a pack animal. We seek out people that are like ourselves. And, same thing with drug addiction, same thing with anything. You're going to seek out these people that are, that make it okay for what you're doing. It's okay because everyone's doing it.
And they don't judge you.
They don't judge you before. Exactly.
Because they're on the bus.
Yeah, and you share trade secrets, I'm sure.
Oh,
when you're in a group.
Absolutely, 100%. You share how you can get away with things. You share how you can do something. It goes with anything, and it's addiction. That just goes to prove that an addiction doesn't have to be one specific thing. That trait is throughout everything. You're doing the same thing regardless of what you're addicted to.
Right. So
when I tell families that, when they say, I really want to put my daughter in an inpatient program, I want to send her somewhere or send him somewhere, my son. And I always, I worry about it because there's so much mixed outcomes with people in inpatient programs. Because the story recently, again, I heard my son had a methamphetamine problem when he went into treatment, and he got out after 28 days, did a wonderful job. They said he was a perfect participant. And within 2 days, he was smoking heroin. And
you go to group therapy and you've got people that have the same problem. You learn some more tricks. You're like, I never even thought of that. Not that I think that therapy is bad, because there is definitely some upsides of therapy, but it is one of those things where you can take away other situations.
Right.
Well, and you talk about the internet. I always talk about what a great source it is, and you always remind us and bring it up and say, look, there's also bad information out there. I mean, if you look at the 800 numbers for most of these treatment centers, they're call centers. They're third-party individuals who are body brokers who basically get a fee for placing someone into treatment. So, and they're trained salespeople. They have a script to follow, just like someone who's trying to call you to sell you, a subscription to, oh my God, what am I supposed to do this week magazine? So you're right. So we talk about, how do we get informed? How do we make informed decisions? What is it we need to do? How do we seek knowledge and make it easy? And, I don't want to burden anybody with saying, well, take an hour and do this each day. But, you talk to the people that seem to have the spiritual balance of life, and the secrets they tend to talk about aren't secrets. You need to do something for yourself in the morning. You need to practice self-care. You have to look at mindfulness. If you eat differently and you choose the food you eat, you think of it as fuel rather than, making yourself feel better, you might have a better outcome. And, Fred, for you, good news or bad news, by quitting smoking, you could live 30 years longer.
Yeah. And I definitely feel that I'm going to.
Whether we like it or not. Right.
Whether you wanted me here or not. But so before we end this, because we're getting close to the ending time, I was initially going to bring up something, but then as you were talking, I was reflecting on our next show, and I think it could be an interesting topic to delve into this transgender stuff, because I think that has a lot to do with mental health. And I know that Mel, the science gal, is very in depth to not only women's rights, but transgender rights and gay rights and stuff. Not that I want to do it, not from a political standpoint. I want to maybe get her to talk about the testosterone levels and, when it comes to sports and mixing together and stuff. It's something that's on a lot of people's minds, it tends to, and I think it falls under mental health. Are you guys comfortable with that?
I have no problem.
I don't have a problem. My knowledge base is probably a little low, but it was just today, if I'm not mistaken, they voted in DC and I'm not going to get it right because I wasn't really tracking it, but that the gay, transgender, and lesbian rights are going to be looked at differently. And I know Biden, one of the first things he did was sign the executive order to allow people to be in the military. So, but I think you're approaching it, from the science perspective. It might be nice to get somebody who really is fully immersed in that field, Fred, if we can find someone. I'm sure if they're listening, they'd jump on it, but it would be nice to have somebody who's, breathed it, lived it, and watched the challenges and seen some of the changes that are coming, so we can really inform our guests as well.
Yeah, because it is an interesting thing. As the parent of a gay son, I obviously have some skin in the game. But at the same time, I don't know it from some of the other views that I'm seeing from the sports worlds and stuff. And I do have that 50-50 split where I agree with some of these people and I agree with some of these people. It's a very difficult situation to understand. So I think it's something that possibly, hold on. Mel, the science gal, just chimed in and she said, let's educate the world about our LGBTQ community. So,
oh my God. She wants to educate the world. Can she find a larger population? How about the group on Mars since the dune buggy has landed? What a great
Mars
plan.
is the only planet that's inhabited by nothing but robots. So we might want to check that out.
Yeah. Okay, Mel, the whole world sounds good. And so far, Mel, we can't even get the phones to ring until Fred gets some help from StreamYard. So I agree with you, but we got to make our signal.
I actually had a funny little story that I was going through these memes and there was one, and it was a picture of a wedding, and it was two women and they were kissing and they were very happy about it. And they had their little dog that was the flower girl, and the dog was dressed up, and the whole top of it said, you know, a year ago we couldn't do this, and this is amazing. And I'm looking at the picture, and I swear this is 100% true. I'm looking at the picture, and they were from Australia, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize Australia wouldn't allow dogs at a wedding. I thought that was just like ridiculous. Why they couldn't have dogs at a wedding? I'm like, that's kind of crazy. And then it finally hit me. I was like, oh, they couldn't get married. I'm like, not that they couldn't have a dog at the wedding.
Yeah, that's the Jennifer, but
that is the Jennifer.
That's a Jennifer. Listen, I hear this all the time. That's why I check out and go to the bathroom.
I'm really blonde. It's true. I'm blonde.
Yeah, I check out of this, but so I think that's about it for this week. I think we could start by saying that I do have a new book coming out, and it is available in pre-sale now, and it's called The 70s 8-Track, and it's a rock anthology with 8 authors writing 8 short stories. All stories are inspired by a 70s rock song. So they each chose a band and a rock song. Nobody could choose the same band, and it's pretty interesting. So that's available at Amazon, and the cover is beautiful. Whoever designed it did an amazing job. I don't know.
That is a gorgeous cover.
Amazing.
Fred.
I think his name was Fred Carroll.
I think that's who it was. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, you might have to look that one up though.
But
Google it. Yeah, go Google on the internet and see if you can get Jen to bless it.
But definitely they could call for that. But as we end every show, the Suicide Hotline is an important first step. 1-800-273-8255. Anyone can call the lifeline, whether they are thinking about suicide or not. Just to get emotional support, you can call. There's no minimum age. You could receive support at any time, even on holidays. As long as you have a phone, you could call the number and talk to someone. Lifeline is also available for non-English speakers and people who are deaf or hard of hearing. So the process isn't perfect, but it is the first step. Before you reach out to us, reach out to them. If you're calling about a friend or family member who's in distress, the person on the phone will walk you through how to help and provide resources, all anonymously. You could also text them at 741-741. It's confidential support 24/7. And that's it. You got anything to say there, Scott or Jennifer, before we head out?
I'm going to say one thing. I want to give out my phone number. I haven't been doing that lately, and I always do it. But I want people to know that if they can't reach Fred because his phones aren't working yet, if you want to talk to somebody, please call me at area code 619-993-2738. And if nothing else, I'll give you Fred's direct line so you can get a hold of him. But don't sit in your stuff and think you're alone, because you're not. And don't think that there isn't hope and help, because there is. So use that phone, get online, call somebody, because I promise you, if you have not heard it yet today, if no one's told you they love you, I love you, and I know Fred loves you.
I love you.
And I know Jen loves you.
I love you.
Jen's
totally true.
Yeah. And it's a good thing. That's like our Brady Bunch moment right there, where we all just do our I love you. I love you.
Yeah. I may not like everybody, but I love everybody.
Yeah, I think it's important. It's definitely an important thing. So I want to thank both of you for being here. Let's thank Mick Manhattan for doing what he does every day on his channel, thescenesnobs.com. You could go over there right now. He's got a show going on. And Mel, the science gal, thanks for your information. Get busy on your LGBTQTOPW. I don't know the call letters anymore. It's very long.
Just
And
everybody.
everybody. But get busy on that. And that's going to be it for this show. So this is Ending the Stigma, A Path to Recovery. Please share our shows, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Everybody.
Take care.